I nearly drove past the ditch until my headlights flashed over a shoe and the smallest twitch of a hand. Evan! I jumped from my pickup on the frontage road outside Joliet, Illinois, cold gravel slipping under my boots as I slid down the embankment. My son was face down in weeds, barely breathing, a bruise spreading like spilled ink under his eye. When I rolled him over, he grabbed my sleeve with surprising strength and whispered, "Dad, it wasn't an accident." He said my poor blood is disgusting. It was Lena's father. My heart rattled in my chest. A semi groaned by on I-55, wind slapping us both. "Stay still," I said, pulling my phone. "I'm calling 911. "No cops," Evan groaned. "Not yet. Take me home." The word stabbed me in the memory of my father's gravelly advice about domestic betrayal and staying calm even with rage in the throat. I tucked my jacket behind Evan's head and scanned the road shoulder for skid marks. There were faint tracks curving where no car should. This was not random. This was a message. I called my older brother, Calvin. I said, keeping my voice level, "Do you remember what Mom and Dad taught us? It's time to put into practice. Say the word." Calvin said from his condo in Boston, Massachusetts. "You got location?" "Joliet. I'm taking Evan to Northwestern Memorial." "And Cal," he said it was Marshall Whitcomb. Calvin whistled. "The hedge fund emperor, New York City money, Chicago presence, and your daughter-in-law's father." I drove one-handed while Evan clutched the door handle. He was 32, a software tech from a co-working space in River North, Chicago, husband to Lena, father to my grandson Mason. Until that night, I had thought our biggest family problem was co-parenting schedules and modern marriage tension. Now I smelled infidelity in marriage power plays and the stink of money. "What did he want from you, son?" I asked. Evan coughed. "He wants Lena free. Said I embarrassed the family. Said he had real men lined up for her. Called it a portfolio upgrade. Dad, he knows about her cheating. He wants it tidy." A nurse at Northwestern forced me into the waiting room while they checked Evan's ribs for fractures. A television fed Chicago sports highlights nobody cared about. I texted Calvin, who replied with a plan born from our parents' lessons. Document, verify, then strike where money and reputation breathe. No rash moves. Legal revenge beats fists. Public disgrace beats private shouting. A man in a charcoal suit strode down the hallway, too polished for midnight. He looked like New York wealth slumming in the Midwest. He looked like trouble. "I'm looking for Evan Dawson," he told the desk. "I'm his father-in-law." I stepped up. "You're in the wrong city, Marshall." He turned, smiled without warmth, and gave my flannel a glance. "Frank, is it? You should be thankful your boy survived. He's been reckless. Chicago roads are cruel. Reckless like a car nudging him into a ditch?" I asked, "Or reckless like whatever deal you're trying to force. This is an American marriage drama, not a fun memo." Marshall ignored me and leaned over the counter. "I'll be paying the bills." He slid a black card forward. "Move him to a private room." I slid the card back. "We'll take care of our own." He lowered his voice. "Lena is filing in the morning. Custody assets, all of it. She has evidence of his cheating." He smirked. "Domestic betrayal cuts both ways, Frank." My jaw tightened. "Your daughter cheating with that music promoter from Miami? I've seen the Instagram stories, the hotel tags, the fake brand collab nights. You think I'm too old to notice? I know the game. Infidelity in marriage hides in plain sight." His smile flickered, then returned. "You're accusing a woman in a hospital lobby. How noble." He brushed imaginary dust from his sleeve. "Tell your son to sign the quiet settlement. I keep this off the gossip blogs, off the Chicago Tribune, off CNBC. No public disgrace for anyone." That was our turning point. Without answering, I pulled out my phone and tapped record. "Say that again," I said. Marshall's eyes went flat. "You are making a mistake." "Maybe," I said, "but I learned from my parents to let people record their own sins." Two police officers turned the corner. Marshall lifted his chin. "You called them anyway," he said. "I called my brother. I said, "The cops are your problem. If the camera footage near mile marker 241 shows a matte black SUV pushing a sedan, I guess your New Jersey plates might have been captured. Chicago loves a traffic cam." Marshall exhaled through his nose, then turned and walked away, the soles of his shoes snapping against tile. He paused at the revolving door. "Tell Evan I do not bluff," he said. The officers reached the desk and asked for me by name. "Sir," one of them said, "we received an anonymous tip that you were withholding information about a hit and run. We need you to come with us." What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. The interrogation room at CPD headquarters off 35th Street hummed with fluorescent lights that made everyone look guilty. I stuck to simple, vivid facts about the ditch, about Evan's whisper, about the matte black SUV. Domestic betrayal is messy, but details are clean. They asked if I believed my son had been drinking. I said no. They asked if I was fabricating an infidelity-driven conspiracy. I said no. They asked if I had any enemies. I said not until that night. Detective Ruiz leaned forward. "You're telling me your son's father-in-law, a billionaire financier from New York, ran him off the road outside Joliet because he disapproves of poor blood? Sounds like a TV revenge story, Mr. Dawson." "Then roll the tape," I said. "Mile marker 241. Any camera that faces the southbound lanes. Evan's car is a Navy Civic with a white Sox decal." Ruiz scribbled, "We'll check state cameras in the truck stop. You leave town." "Not until my son is safe," I said. "And even then, I'll be in a place you can find me, my bungalow in Bridgeport, Chicago." They let me go with a warning. Outside, the lake wind cut through my jacket. I called Calvin, and the Boston morning crept into his voice. "I spoke to an old friend in New Jersey who does compliance work for Marshall's Fund," he said. "The firm's name is Candle Quay. They have a skeleton closet. If we can tie a domestic incident to a pattern of coercion, the SEC will be interested. I need Evan out of hospital, stable and quiet." I said, "We are in a co-parenting conflict with a woman whose father pulls strings. I'd like to pull a few of my own. At Northwestern, Evan was awake, sore, and stubborn. 'Dad,' he said, 'don't start a war.' Lena texted me." He held up his phone. The message read, "You did this to yourself. Sign the papers and Mason stays with me. Otherwise, my father makes sure your accident becomes a DUI on your record." My chest hollowed. Emotional manipulation in plain letters. "Where is she?" "Her new condo," Evan said. "Old Town, Chicago. The one her father paid for." "We are going," I said, on the street. Chicago felt like a steel-ribbed animal that had learned to ignore family drama. We passed reduced trucks unloading at a local market and a busker playing Springsteen on a cracked Stratocaster. At Lena's building, a doorman frowned at my flannel, but let us through when Evan flashed his key fob. Lena opened the door in gym clothes that probably cost more than my truck. She looked like Instagram confidence with a Washington, D.C. strategist's eyes. "Frank," she said, "cool as tile." "Evan, I'm surprised you survived." "You knew?" Evan asked. She shrugged. "If you had just accepted the divorce, none of this would be necessary. You're not a match for my world. That is not an insult. It is math." "Domestic betrayal dressed up as math," I said. "Where's my grandson?" "Asleep," she said. "And safe. He will remain safe if you sign what my father's lawyer drafted. Custody to me. Visitation to you. Financial settlement minimal. You can pursue your little American marriage drama somewhere else." "Are you cheating?" Evan asked, breath tight. "I am done answering your accusations," she said. "But since you want honesty, yes. You bored me. I am not going to apologize for upgrading my life. The promoter in Miami gets me, and he has contacts in Los Angeles. That is where I am going with Mason. We will be bi-coastal. You can Zoom." My pulse banged in my ears. "You cannot run cross-country with my grandson." Her gaze flicked to Evan. "Then sign, or we file a protection order based on your drinking and reckless driving." You know how social media works. A few curated posts, and you are a cheating spouse, an unfit father, and a public disgrace. Evan swallowed hard, eyes glossing. I remembered him at 10, asking me to teach him how to throw a baseball without looking silly. Family is a weight and a gift. Okay, I said. We play lawyer ball. Lena smirked. You cannot afford. The doorbell cut her off. The doorman's voice crackled through the intercom. Ms. Whitcomb, a delivery. She swung the door open to a messenger with a thick, bound stack. From New Jersey, he said. Hand delivery. For Mr. Evan Dawson and Ms. Lena Whitcomb Dawson. I took the envelope before Lena could. Inside was a temporary restraining order, not against Evan, but against Marshall. The petition was filed in a Newark court that morning. The plaintiff's name made my scalp prickle. Simone Hart, a former Candlequay employee. Who is Simone? Evan asked. Lena's mask slipped for a beat. An accountant, she said too quickly. I scanned the affidavit. Simple and devastating. Coerced NDAs, hush payments, manipulated custody cases to control spouses, a pattern of emotional manipulation and financial threats. The final line, I will testify that Candlequay used private security to stage accidents. Our quiet moment shattered into a new path. Looks like your father has a leak, I said. Lena's phone buzzed. She read a text and turned ashen. He wants Mason now, she whispered. He is sending people. A shadow crossed the hall outside, and a hand tested the doorknob. The knob rattled again, harder. I pressed my shoulder to the door as Evan scooped Mason from a white-painted crib in the spare room. The boy's hair smelled like baby shampoo and sleep. Evan whispered into his son's ear, I got you, buddy. Voice shaking. Call 911. I told Lena. Tell them there's an attempted unlawful entry tied to a New Jersey restraining order. She hesitated, pride wrestling with fear. Then she dialed. When the first thud hit, the hollow core door dented. I stepped back and grabbed the heavy umbrella stand. The second thud splintered cheap trim. Chicago cops are fast in this neighborhood, but not faster than money with a schedule. Police? A voice barked from the other side. Open up. Badge through the peephole. I called. No badge appeared. Not police, I said. Evan clenched his jaw. Stairwell, he whispered. We ran. A messy caravan. Evan with Mason, me with the umbrella stand like a bat, Lena with her phone, and her panic. The stairwell echoed every footstep. On the second-floor landing, a man in a windbreaker stepped from the shadows. He moved like someone who had worked security in Nevada casinos or a Florida nightclub, efficient, silent. He reached for Evan's arm. I swung the stand. It cracked against his forearm. He hissed and recoiled. You do not want this, he said. His Midwest accent failed to hide East Coast orders. Already have it, I said. We crashed into the lobby as the doorman, bless him, hit the alarm and buzzed us out. The cold air slapped us awake. We spilled onto Wells Street and flagged the first taxi, Northwestern Memorial. I told the driver. Then I leaned forward. You are about to drive into a co-parenting conflict mixed with a revenge story. You okay with that? He shrugged. Chicago, mister. Buckle up. At the hospital, I called Calvin. We need a lockbox lawyer. Someone in Illinois who cannot be bought. Calvin said, I texted you a number. Her name is Taryn Park. Illinois and New York bars. She eats people like Marshall for breakfast. Within an hour, Taryn appeared in jeans and blazer, hair twisted into a knot that meant business. I read the Newark filing. She said, flipping open a laptop. We will add your incident to the affidavit. Seek emergency protective custody orders for Mason and file a stalking no contact order against a security contractor. Also, we will prepare a press strategy. Public disgrace is the only language certain men understand. Lena flinched. He is still my father. Then he can act like one, Taryn said. Not a portfolio manager. Taryn drafted, filed, and called in a favor with a Cook County judge she had clerked for. By evening, we had a temporary order. Mason to remain in Chicago with Evan pending a full hearing. Lena's parenting time supervised. Neither party to remove the child from Illinois. Lena stared at the paper. I never thought he would come after me, too, she said, voice small. I thought I was protected. That is emotional manipulation, Taryn said. He uses love as a lever. The turning point arrived with a ping, an email from a music blog in Los Angeles titled, Leaked, Marshall Wickham's daughter in hotel scandal, infidelity and marriage gone viral. Someone had tipped the blog with photos of Lena kissing promoter on a rooftop in Miami. The photos were months old but brutal now. The comments were worse. Lena's face crumpled. Please take them down, she whispered to no one. Damage is done, Taryn said, but we can reposition. We do not slut-shame. We focus on power, coercion, and control. We tell the story of a family standing up. A nurse interrupted. Mr. Dawson, you have a visitor. I walked the corridor and froze. It was Simone Hart. She looked tired but steady, a Rhode Island accent peeking through her edges. We need to talk, she said, and I need protection. Why help us? I asked. She glanced at Mason through the glass. Because I sign papers that keep men like Marshall untouchable. I cannot sleep. And because there is a ledger. What ledger? She met my eyes. The one that shows he paid private firms to interfere in custody cases across Illinois, New York, and Florida. Your son is a line item. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with an unknown New Jersey number. I answered and heard Marshall's crisp, controlled voice. Frank, enjoy your 36 hours. After that, Illinois will feel very small. We moved to a safe house in Hyde Park arranged by Taryn, a narrow brick two-flat near the University of Chicago. It smelled like old books and lemon cleaner. The high intensity of the last 24 hours gave way to a low, coiled calm. Stock photo perfect. A kettle steaming. A child's toy train on a rug. A city skyline beyond the window. Yet every car door outside sounded like a threat. Simone spread documents across the dining table. Scanned NDAs, wire transfers, emails from a Candlequake compliance account. I copied this ledger after they asked me to backdate payments. New Jersey shell companies. Nevada contractors. An outfit in Texas known for fixing domestic cases. When I pushed back, they threatened to ruin my credit and leak photos from a company retreat. Photos? Lena asked. Simone raised an eyebrow. Every company has its sins. Why us? Evan asked, cradling Mason. We are not a headline. Simone tapped a column. Because Marshall needs control. He hated your brand. He hated Chicago. He hated Poor Boy Makes Good Stories. He prefers curated in Manhattan and Miami Beach. I looked at Calvin on the laptop screen from Boston. He had grown quiet. Frank, he said, Mom always said, never fight a rich man alone. Bring friends. I called the Attorney General's office in Illinois. I also called a reporter in New York who owes me a favor. Taryn nodded. We go legal first. Press second. We build resilience through process, not blunt force. We rehearsed. We documented. We prepared. Meanwhile, Lena tried to reach her father and received only a single text. You will regret this performance. Night drew a dark curtain across Hyde Park. I tucked Mason in a portable crib. Evan dozed on the couch, guarded by two hired security fellows who looked like former college linebackers from Michigan and North Carolina. At 3 a.m, a car idled outside. The security guys checked the window, conferring in low voices. Same sedan as before. One said, I reached for the umbrella, stand leaning by the door. Old man habits die hard. The car pulled away after 10 minutes. The quiet returned. In the morning, our consequences arrived by email. Evan's employer in River North forwarded a complaint accusing him of harassment based on anonymous posts. His access was suspended. The co-parenting conflict had spilled into the paycheck. Next, my bank flagged my account for unusual activity, a freeze that meant my mortgage payment would bounce. Financial revenge, Taryn said. Classic. We will litigate later. Right now. File police reports for freeze and the job interference. Build the record. By noon, my phone rang again. Frank, Calvin said, the reporter in New York is in. But he needs one on-the-record quote. Are you ready for public disgrace to cut both ways? I looked at my son asleep with a bruise blooming. I looked at my grandson's tiny socks. Yes, I said. Use my name. Calvin read the draft. Chicago grandfather alleges billionaire used private security to stage a crash in co-parenting dispute. It felt like holding a live wire. Before we could hit send, Taryn's face went pale. The judge moved up the hearing today, she said, scanning her phone. Someone pushed. 2 hours. We had just enough time to dress, pack the ledger, and load Mason into his car seat. On the steps outside, I breathed the lake air and steadied my hands. We go slow, I told Evan. We go honest. We are not perfect, but we are not cruel. We drove toward the Daily Center, the loop rising, glass and steel. As we turned onto Washington Street, a delivery truck jerked out ahead of us and slammed to a stop. Our SUV screeched. In the rear view, a black sedan boxed us in. Brace, I said. The driver's door of the black sedan opened, and a man stepped out with legal papers raised high like a shield. He smiled as if posing for stock photos. You are served, he said. Emergency petition from New York Family Court. Temporary jurisdiction granted. How did New York get jurisdiction? Taryn said, incredulous. Special motion, the man said, in the interest of the child. He set the papers on our hood, winked at Mason through glass, and walked away. We sprinted into the Daily Center with 2 jurisdictions tugging at us like a wishbone. The Cook County judge, a woman with a crisp Detroit cadence, eyed both sets of papers. Chicago has a child, she said. New York has influence. But influence is not law. Counsel, proceed. Taryn stood, chin up. Your Honor, this is a coordinated campaign of emotional manipulation, financial coercion, and interstate forum shopping. We have a whistleblower, Simone Hart, who can testify to a pattern of interference in custody cases by Candle Quay and affiliates. We request the court maintain jurisdiction and order all parties to refrain from removal of the child from Illinois. Across the aisle, Marshall Chicago Counsel, sleek, silver cufflinks, rose. Your Honor, my client is a respected businessman with concerns about his grandson's welfare, given Mr. Dawson's documented instability and suspected cheating spouse drama fueling conflict. Documented by whom? The judge asked. Anonymous community reports. The lawyer said. The judge stared. Anonymous is not evidence. She turned to us. Where's the child now? In our care, I said, standing from the bench. Safe. The judge glanced at me. You are. Frank Dawson, Evan's father. I said. I am 67, retired electrician, Vietnam era but stateside, not much for Twitter, plenty for showing up. A corner of her mouth flicked. Noted. Ms. Hart, do you swear to tell the truth? Simone approached, palms damp but voice steady. She laid the ledger on the courtroom table. She spoke of New Jersey shells, of Nevada contracts, of a Texas intermediary that specialized in reputation smoothing, of pressure applied in Florida and New York to tip outcomes. She spoke of a file labeled Dawson, Chicago. When she finished, the judge leaned back. I am not the United States attorney, she said, but I recognize the smell of a fix. Chicago will keep jurisdiction, pending a full hearing. Ms. Whitcomb, you will not remove the child from Illinois. Mr. Dawson, you will not harass Ms. Whitcomb. All parties will maintain the status quo. A collective breath left our row like steam. The lawyer with cufflinks stood again. Your Honor, the New York order. New York can wait, she said. We stepped into the hall, relief fraying into new nerves. That was when Marshall himself appeared, flanked by 2 suits who looked like Colorado ski instructors cross-trained in private equity. He was cool, immaculate, and angry enough to crack glass. Ms. Hart, he said softly, you think you know my house. You saw the foyer, not the basement. Simone did not flinch. I saw enough. He turned to me. Frank, this public theater only prolongs pain. You are old. Retire with dignity. Tell your son to take the check. I raised a stubborn kid, I said, and I have an older brother with a long memory. Marshall's smile cooled the air. Calvin, The Boston one. He should check on his mortgage. I stepped forward. You leave my brother out of this. I leave nothing out, Marshall said. I add rows to the ledger until the sum is mine. Taryn stepped between us. Mr. Whitcomb, she said, approach my client again, and we add witness intimidation to our filings. Marshall's eyes flicked to her, bored. Ms. Park, the last lawyer who tried to make me a headline, ended up at a boutique in Rhode Island. You may enjoy Providence. The turning point arrived on my phone as a New York push alert. Billionaire's daughter named in Miami affair. Allegations of interstate custody interference surface. Calvin had gone live with the story. The photo of Lena was unkind but real. Marshall read it over my shoulder, his jaw tightening. Public disgrace tasted different on his tongue. He pocketed his phone. Well, then, he said, see you in New York. Back at the safe house, we celebrated with cheap pizza from a South Side joint. Mason smeared sauce like war paint. Laughter came jagged but real. For a moment, the American family values we all claimed felt possible again. Then the power went out. The security guys moved the windows. A flashlight beam swept across the front room like a slow blade. A voice outside said, delivery. We had not ordered anything. I opened the door with the chain on. A paper bag sat on the stoop with a sticky note. From Annie Mae's kitchen, Hyde Park love. The security guard shook his head. Could be nothing. Could be a tracker. I carried it to the sink like it might hiss. Taryn pulled on dish gloves, slit the top, and lifted out 2 foil trays of mac and cheese and greens. No device, just food. A printed card at the bottom read, from the folks who heard your story, stay safe. Inside the card, a prepaid cell and a scribble number. If you need a ride, Carlos. Chicago still has a heart, I said. Low tide amid the chaos. We were in a lull, a quiet chapter, but the consequences rippled. Evan's HR emailed to say the anonymous harassment reports had multiplied. His key card was revoked permanently. He sat at the table, eyes on Mason as if sight alone could keep the boy from being a bargaining chip. I will drive for Lyft if I have to, Evan muttered. I will stock shelves like in college. You will build something better. I said, you always do. Lena emerged from the bedroom, hair pulled back, eyes rimmed in red. I called my father, she said. He offered me a trust fund if I hand over full custody. He called it a stability stipend. I told him I want my son, not his money. He hung up. That is the first choice you have made for yourself in months, Taryn said. Write it down. Court's notice. Simone brewed coffee and stared out at the cold sunlight. He will come at me next, she said. My landlord in Washington Heights said someone asked for my keys. We will move you, Calvin said to the laptop from Boston. I have a friend in Providence. Marshall already mentioned Providence. I said, we do not drive her into a shadow. My phone buzzed. The caller ID said Michigan. I let it roll to voicemail, then listened to a gruff union voice. Frank, heard you are in a fix. The local in Detroit backs you. Need statements? We got them. We were not alone. Men over 60 who remembered handshakes that meant something were coming out of the woodwork. It gave me the kind of stubborn strength that lives in callous hands. Then came the twist. Taryn's email pinged. A scanned copy of a Las Vegas marriage license popped up on the screen. The names, Lena Whitcomb and the Miami promoter. Date, 2 weeks ago. Not filed, but no tarist. I did not sign this, Lena said, breathing fast. It is a forgery, Taryn said, but it changes optics. They will claim you abandoned the marriage, that Evan is a cheating spouse by reaction, that you are unstable. What do I do? Lena whispered. You testified to the truth, Taryn said, and we find the notary in Nevada who stamped this. People flip for money or for conscience. I rub my temples. We need to get ahead of this story. Today, or we lose half the country. In the comments. Calvin cleared his throat. Frank, there's a podcast called Voices of Annie Mae that tells American marriage drama like this. Huge with our target audience. The host loves old school family values and revenge stories. She will put you on if you make it to the studio in Bronzeville by 5. I checked my watch. We can do it. Taryn pointed at me. You will not name the child. You will say my grandson. You will speak in simple, vivid English. You will not threaten. You will say, we want lawful remedy. We grabbed our coats. The prepaid phone rang as I reached for it. A voice said, if you want the Nevada notary, meet me at the 95th Street Red Line in 30 minutes. Platform northbound. Bring no cops. The call clicked off. The 95th Street station pulsed with late afternoon traffic. People in puffer jackets, a saxophone catching coins by the stairs. The train screeched in and exhaled a river of commuters. I scanned faces, feeling ridiculous and alive. A 67-year-old on a spy errand in Chicago. A woman in a denim jacket brushed my arm. You Frank? She asked. Yes. She slipped a folded paper into my palm. Notary's name is Aaron Pike. Works out of a strip mall near Henderson, Nevada. He notarized 3 fake documents for Canoquay last month. I use a date as cousin. And Frank, she touched my sleeve. Tell Annie may we love her. Who are you? I asked. She was gone, carried by the crowd. I snapped a photo of a note and sent it to Taryn and Calvin. We can subpoena him, Taryn messaged, and we can call the Nevada Secretary of State to start an inquiry. On air at Voices of Annie Mae, the studio smelled like coffee and wires. Auntie Mae herself, a warm woman with North Carolina honey in her voice, held my hand before the red light blinked. Tell the people the truth, baby, she said. Use your heart, not your fists. I told it. I told about domestic betrayal, about infidelity in marriage, about a cheating spouse turned weapon against a good father, about co-parenting conflict, about emotional manipulation and power plays, about a roadside ditch. I did not bluster. I did not curse. I spoke like the man my father raised. May nodded as I finished. Now, to our listeners in Los Angeles, Florida, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and beyond, remember, family is not a hedge fund. It is a porch. We stepped out to 3 missed calls from unknown numbers and 1 voicemail from Marshall, Velvet, and Venom. Cute show, Frank. The audience for Revenge Stories loves a villain. Enjoy your comments. We enjoy our verdicts. We drove back toward Hyde Park, the sky turning the color of bruised peaches. At 63rd, a crossover SUV ran the red and nearly clipped us. Our driver cursed. People losing their minds, he said. We reached the safe house to find the door ajar. My stomach fell. The security guard were on the floor, zip-tied but breathing. The living room had been turned inside out. Drawers dumped, couch cushions slashed. Mason! Evan shouted, crashing into the bedroom. Empty crib. Lena screamed, a sound that belonged in a war. On the kitchen table, a single photo. Mason sleeping in a car seat, a New York skyline blurred through the window. On the back, a neat note, come to Brooklyn, tonight. We hit Midway first, then O'Hare when Midway had nothing. Taryn booked us on the next flight to New York, a red-eye through Detroit. Marshall wanted us on his turf. Fine. We would bring Chicago to him. The airline agent glanced at our faces and found seats together without fuss. Sometimes pain is a passport. On the plane, Lena clutched my hand. He is my father, she whispered. What if he uses Mason as a bargaining chip again? What if he vanishes him to Florida or Hawaii or God knows where? He will not risk the island states yet. Taryn said dryly, too obvious. He will keep Mason close in New York to pressure you, and he will try to serve Evan in a Brooklyn courtroom to seize jurisdiction. We will counter Manhattan and argue forum nonconvenience. Simple words, heavy moves. In Detroit, during the layover, a man in a baseball cap sat beside me at the gate. I am from a union hall in Pennsylvania, he said without preamble. Seen your story. If you need process servers who do not scare easy, call me. He slid me a card, then melted back into the crowd. At LaGuardia, the smell of coffee and jet fuel snapped me awake. We took a yellow cab across the Triborough, the skyline jagged against the dawn. Simone texted an address, a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights used by Canoquay for family emergencies. It was a careful euphemism. We arrived to find two men posted at the stoop. Taryn approached with a folder and a prosecutor's spine. "We have an Illinois order," she said. "We have a federal kidnapping allegation pending. Stand aside." "Not our house," one guard said. "We are guests." "Then you will not mind if we knock." A woman opened the door with eyes that had seen too much. A nanny, I guess Dominican or Puerto Rican by her accent. She looked past us to Lena. Recognition softened her mouth. "You are the mother," she said. "Come." We climbed the stairs. Mason slept on a blanket in a sunlit room. Relief shook my knees. Evan scooped him up with the gentlest hands I have ever seen. "Mr. Whitcomb is not here," the nanny said. "He said to tell you to go to the office in Lower Manhattan at 11. "What is your name?" I asked. "Marisol," she said. "Marisol." I said, "Do you want to keep working for a man who does this to families?" She glanced at Mason and shook her head. "I want to go home to Washington Heights and sleep." "Then go," I said. "We will not say your name." We left with Mason and walked 3 blocks to the promenade. The East River glittered. New York joggers ignored us. For a second, peace. Then my phone buzzed. A New York number. The Brooklyn Family Court. "Mr. Dawson," a clerk said, "your presence is required in a custody hearing initiated by Ms. Whitcomb. 10 o'clock. Now." "They are split screening us," Taryn said. "He lures us to Manhattan, while Brooklyn grabs jurisdiction. We cannot be in both." The turning point came from an unlikely place. Annie Mae's studio posted our segment to YouTube and Facebook, and it was climbing. Top comment from a retired Marine in Texas. "We stand with Frank." Another from a grandmother in Georgia. "That baby belongs with love, not ledgers." Public pressure bends metal. We needed it to bend courts. "Evan goes to Brooklyn with Lena," Taryn said. "I go with them. Frank, you take Simone and the ledger to Candle Quay in Manhattan. If you can put Marshall on record, do it. If not, leave your business card and the words, 'We have the ledger.' Make them sweat." We split at the curb. New York swallowed us, each into our own fight. I stepped into the granite canyon of Wall Street with Simone at my side. Candle Quay's lobby smelled like cold marble and money. The receptionist smiled like a scalpel. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes," I said, with accountability. Elevators whispered us to a floor of glass offices and quiet anger. Marshall waited in a conference room with a view of the harbor, tie casual, eyes sharp. "Frank," he said. "Simone, the folk heroes." I set the ledger on the table. "This belongs to the public." He glanced at it. Allegations and spreadsheets. "Cute. I have armies for that." "Armies bleed in headlines." I said, "And you misread the country. Men who built things with their hands do not love you." He smiled. "Men who built things with their hands do not control courts." Simone slid her phone across. "Aaron Pike in Nevada is ready to speak," she said. "The notary. He wants protection. He has the originals." Marshall flicked a look at his lawyer, who left the room with an urgent text. A crack in the ice. "You are a small man in a large story, Frank," Marshall said. "You are a prop for a tire channel." "Tire channels catch fire," I said. "Ask your PR firm." He leaned in. "Name your price." I blinked. Price. Everyone has one. I looked at the river. Barges pushing water like stubborn men. Mine is simple. Public apology. Admit you interfered. Donate to a fund for parents abused by money in family court. Walk away from my family. He sat back, amused. "You want theater. I want quiet." Then we go loud. My phone buzzed. A text from Taryn. "Brooklyn judge preserving Illinois order. Social pressure worked. Lena testified against father. Crying but strong." Another text from Calvin. "New York Times wants the ledger. Source protection in place." Marshall read, "My face the way predators read wind." "You think you have momentum," he said. "You do not. You have pity views." Simone stood. "We are done," she said. "Subpoenas will do the rest." We walked to the elevator. The doors opened. A man in a dark suit stepped out with a folder. He brushed my shoulder and whispered so low only I heard, "Look under your truck when you get back to Chicago." The doors closed us in. My stomach turned to ice. Explosive. I asked, "Tracker." Simone said, "Or worse. He wants you to panic." Back on the street, the city roared like a stadium. We hurried to a taxi, needing to be anywhere else. As we slid in, my phone rang. It was Evan, breathless. "Dad, we won Brooklyn for now," he said. "But there is something else." His voice broke. They froze Lena's accounts. Every card. She has nothing. I glanced at Simone. "He is punishing her." "She chose you," Simone said. "He punishes defectors." "Where are you?" I asked. "Outside the Brooklyn courthouse." Evan said, "Reporters everywhere. Cameras. They're asking about cheating spouse and American marriage drama. We cannot walk without microphones in Mason's face." "Hold tight," I said. "We are coming, and then we're going home." As our taxi merged onto the Brooklyn Bridge, a black SUV slid in behind us. Too close. The driver checked the mirror, uneasy. The SUV's lights flashed once. "Lose them," I said. He gunned it. The SUV matched. We shot across the bridge, steel cables slicing the sky. The SUV tapped our bumper. "Hey!" the driver shouted. "This is New York." Another tap, harder. Simone grabbed the door handle. I grabbed the seat back until my knuckles went white. The SUV pulled alongside. Through the tinted window, I saw Marshall's lawyer at the wheel, expression empty as an invoice. He mouthed one word, "Stop." The taxi driver did not stop. He swerved, horn blaring, and cut hard for the Cadman Plaza exit. The SUV clipped our tail and spun, fishtailing into a barrier. The sound was metal screaming. We shot down the ramp, hearts clanging like bells. On the courthouse steps, Taryn waved us in like an air traffic controller. Evan and Lena stood with Mason in a press storm. Microphones, flashes, the churn of 100 opinions. This was public disgrace as a weapon and as a shield. A reporter thrust a mic at me. "Mr. Dawson, are you waging a revenge story against a respected businessman?" "I am protecting my family," I said. "I am calling out emotional manipulation and interference in a co-parenting conflict. We are asking the courts to be fair. That is all." "Did your son cheat?" "My son made mistakes," I said. "Everyone does. But domestic betrayal does not justify violence or legal abuse." Taryn shepherded us inside. The clerk handed us stamped copies. Illinois jurisdiction affirmed. New York deferred pending investigation. Temporary custody shared with Evan as primary residential parent. Lena's supervised visitation to be reviewed in 30 days. Protective order extended to include Simone. The judge had read the room and the ledger. We stepped into the thin winter light. Calvin texted, "Nevada notary cooperating. AG Illinois open inquiry." The dominoes were falling. Marshall was nowhere visible, but his shadow lay across the sidewalk. Lena leaned against a stone and cried in a way that sounded like 10 years of pressure let go. "I am sorry," she said to Evan, "for the cheating, for the lies, for letting him turn our marriage into a resume. I am not asking you to forgive me now. I am asking you to let me earn it as Mason's mother." Evan looked at his wife, then at his son. He nodded once. "You testify," he said. "You tell the truth in Illinois," and you cut him off. "I already did," she said, holding up her dead phone. "He cut me first." We walked toward the subway, the city's pulse settling into our bones. On the platform, an old man with a harmonica played "America the Beautiful," off-key and perfect. Mason clapped, the sound high and clean. My phone buzzed one more time. A message from an unknown Michigan number. "We found something under your truck in Chicago. Tracker. Removed. You are clear." I exhaled for the first time in days. We flew home to Illinois, to the bungalow in Bridgeport with its crooked porch light and its stubborn heater, to a city that holds you even when you do not deserve it. We pulled into the driveway at dusk. The neighbors waved. A kid rode by on a bike with a Bulls flag fluttering. I crouched and checked under my pickup anyway, habit hardening into ritual. Nothing but road dust and a bent hanger from a muffler shop in Utah years back. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Inside, we set Mason down on the living room rug. He crawled for a wooden train and made a whistle noise that broke my heart. There was a knock at the door. Not a pound, a polite rap. I looked at Evan. He looked at me. I opened it to find a woman in a dark coat, badge at her belt. "Mr. Dawson," she said. "I am with the Illinois Attorney General's office." I gripped the frame. "Ma'am, we would like your help," she said. "And your ledger. We are seeking charges, wire fraud, conspiracy, interference with custody. But there is something else." She held up an envelope with the Candle Quay logo. Inside was a settlement offer made out to Evan and to me. The number could have bought 10 houses. I held it up to the light, then handed it back. "You keep that," I said. "Turn it into evidence." She smiled, small and fierce. "Thought you might say that. We will be in touch." And Mr. Dawson, nice work. When the door shut, the house felt warmer, like the furnace finally caught. Calvin texted a photo of a Boston paper. Whitcomb faces probe. Simone texted a selfie in Rhode Island with a lawyer who looked like he did not scare easy. Annie Mae posted a clip. "Family is not a ledger. It is a porch." I stood at the window and watched the streetlights snap on, one by one, across Chicago. We were not finished. Courts take time, money heals slow, and hearts slower, but we had turned the tide. An American marriage drama with a different ending than Marshall planned. I lifted Mason, and he pressed his forehead to mine. "We are going to be okay," I told him. "Not perfect. Okay. And one day, you will throw a baseball without looking silly." The phone buzzed again. A final text, no caller ID. This is not over. I smiled, thin and certain. "It is for you," I said to the empty room. "You just do not know it yet. Thank you for staying with us to the end." Comment your thoughts on the betrayal, and tell us where you are watching from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below.